Hi, you're watching Enemy. I'm Andrew Trendle, and we're here with Andy Black.
Hello.
How's it going, man?
Hi. I went for the really high one.
We spent quite some time practicing our hellos.
I may do this whole interview in falsetto, just because my normal voice is so low. Just for Enemy, I want to give it a different flavor.
We could slow it down. We could mess around.
Well, yeah, we can mess around if you want. I mean, with my voice, whatever.
Can you do accents?
No.
No accents.
I cannot. I can do, well, here's the thing. No. I can try, but what I was going to say is there's a huge distinction between being able to do an accent and then thinking you're able to do an accent. So I like to just say that I can't do it at all. And then in the privacy of my own home, I'm saying all kinds of shit. I'm just making every kind of voice possible. What I can do is sing in an annoying tone in falsetto until my wife says stop.
Okay. Can you do your highest falsetto, or is that going to blow you out?
I don't have it right now.
Okay.
I have to be doing something like a menial task around my house and know that I want to annoy my wife so much by saying like some sort of phrase that makes no sense. Like, for instance, I will often sing sizzling Szechuan beef over and over again in falsetto until she goes, okay. And then I'm done because she's acknowledged me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she's really hungry.
But then she wants to sing it, and then we both are basically we're just crazy people walking around our house singing in falsetto.
So can you do impressions? Like, would you do a James Hetfield?
Would I or could I?
Could you?
I could. I will not.
Excellent.
I refuse. I'm just trying to put this interview to a halt right at the top. All the things you asked me to do, I just say no. I'm the worst improviser of all time.
Okay, how do you feel about talking about the new record?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So,
yes, and
The Ghosts of Ohio.
Yes.
What came first, the comic or the music?
It's kind of funny because I've been thinking about that a lot recently, and I think that my answer has changed because I think that I thought initially that the comic came first because my timeline was a little screwy. But the truth is that a very early version of the song Ghost of Ohio came first. And then it wasn't until the comic book had gotten started and I'd already really developed the whole idea that we went back and reevaluated what the song Ghost of Ohio was. So there was an early iteration of the song which kind of told a bit of the story and was in that same vein, but it really wasn't until I literally was sitting at the kitchen table one day probably singing Sizzling Szechuan Beef in a falsetto voice.
Which is not on the album.
No. And it's kind of funny. Kind of funny in a weird way, we had a person break into our garage in our house and stole a bunch of my old stage memorabilia and stuff. And I realized that our security was lacking. And so I went out and got a bunch of new security stuff, and we got a new security company and whatever else. And then all the security companies give you like 30 signs to put around your home to be like, don't come in here, we got security. And there was one that was sitting on the kitchen table, and it was this like large, flat, white plastic surface that was flipped over. And I had a Sharpie, and I just started just doodling something. And I doodled this kind of character that looked essentially like what people are seeing now in the comic book, and I didn't know what it was, and I just wrote The Ghost of Ohio on the top, and I was like, oh, maybe this is a thing. And so then that whole night I started painting and doing all these different versions of this character because the song Ghost of Ohio, the title had existed, but I didn't know what it was. And then I did the illustrations, and then the next day I wrote the prologue, and I came up with this idea, and then we were already in talks with the comic book company about developing something that I was thinking about doing, and so I said, this is the idea, let's do this. And it just kind of went from there. And then the writing of the comic book and the artwork and everything else and the creation of the record happened kind of concurrently.
Yeah. Well, what can you tell us about kind of the themes and the story of both the comic and the record? I mean, how much of it is pure fantasy? How much of it is personal? How much of it is a mirror to this horrible nightmare we're living in?
I like to think of it as like Batman or any long-standing comic book character, there's many different iterations of the character, and you may see the Adam West Batman is one that's jokey and running around with a bomb over his head and whatever else, bat repellent spray. And then a few years later, relatively speaking, in terms of the 80-year canon, all of a sudden you're seeing Batman and Frank Miller, and it's very gritty, and then you have the Tim Burton movies, and then suddenly it goes back to a very campy thing in the mid-90s, and you see all these different directions that the character has taken, but they're all valid forms of the character. They all represent different elements of the character. So my idea was that the record would be a representation of how the character is me, and songs that are about my life, as opposed to writing songs that are like concept record fiction. This is songs that are inspired by the story but are directly about me. And then inversely, the comic book is not about me. It's about this character, and he's in a very kind of superhero world where he's fighting the bad guys and that kind of thing. So It all lives somewhere inside me and my consciousness, but they're different depictions of the same character, if that makes sense.
So what kind of themes are you exploring in terms of your personal life?
Well, I had kind of a complicated relationship with my hometown and where I grew up, and I kind of had a level of resentment. Like many people that come from like a small town and want to succeed outside of that, you either have a feeling of like, I'm going to do it for my town, or you have a feeling of like, I'm going to do it in spite of my town and I'm going to show them. And I kind of felt like I was a little bit in between, because sometimes I'd feel this great sense of pride in being from this area, and other times I'd be like, but screw them, they were all mean to me and now they're not, nobody acknowledges me, and kind of like whiny. Admittedly, I felt that as I got like my early 20s, I really was feeling that. And so around like 2014, kind of a weird circumstance, but my grandmother was diagnosed with cancer and started chemo treatment, and I really wanted to make a concerted effort to be there with her during her treatments. And I live in Los Angeles, but I had a little bit of time off the road, so I flew to Cincinnati and I just stayed at her house with her. And it was the first time in many years that I had not only been there for a long period of time, but had to do like go to the grocery store that I grew up going to, or see the people that I went to school with, or drive at a stoplight. I'm next to one of my teachers, seeing people that I hadn't spent any time around for years and years, and then having to remember that there's the human element, that this kind of fictionalized, romanticized version of where I'm from, whether it's the positive or negative, is kind of not real anywhere except in my mind. And the reality is that people are just going about their life, and they don't really care whether I'm a successful rock musician or whatever else, because they have their own problems. And all of that stuff sort of melted away, and the feelings of angst that I had, and I more just was interested in becoming connected to where I'm from and finding out more about the area that I grew up in and my childhood. And since I was an only child, I didn't have like friends or anybody I could talk to about, remember when we were kids and we went to this thing? I was a loner who didn't have any siblings. So there was like, it was just me. The only source was me. So I started thinking, well, I want to look at and examine my childhood and the places that I spent time, and let's start looking at where I grew up and both of my parents worked full time. So I would go to like summer day camp and after school programs and stuff like that. And I was always creeped out by them. I always thought these places are super weird. So I was like, I'm going to look up, like, what's the history of these buildings? Like, universally, all of them are like, America's most haunted place. And I had no idea. Like, the place that I went to summer camp was a tuberculosis hospice care place where people that had what they would call consumption would die, and then were taken through tunnels underneath like the baseball fields that I grew up playing on and everything, to this potter's grave, which is where the school that I went to is located. And then all this stuff started unraveling, where I went to my grandmother. I said, why is there like 3 headstones in the playground of the school that I went to school? And they go, oh yeah, because they just paved right over it and put the school over. There's all kinds of graves underneath there. So I go, so I went to school on a graveyard? And all this stuff just kept happening. So I thought, wow, I'm connecting with the story of my adolescence, and I'm finding all this crazy stuff. I have to kind of find a way of writing like a ghost story about this, and that's where it kind of all started.
Amazing. So what can you tell us about the sound, and how do you write music that kind of deals with such a broad range of stuff?
I wanted to make a concerted effort to not write... I wanted to shy away from the idea of writing like a Halloween theme record. You know what I mean? I wanted there to be elements of that, like the introduction song, which is Resurrection, was meant to be, where you could hear like Vincent Price talking over it or something, you know what I mean? I wanted it to sound that way. But by and large, I wanted the record to more represent the emotional tone as opposed to the overarching theme of this ghost story. So a song like Westwood Road is very dark in subject matter in terms of what I'm talking about. I'm talking about my sobriety and getting to that kind of the end of the line as far as me being like a stupid party dude and figuring out what I was going to do with my life. But also, I look back at those times now and I have a little bit more perspective, so I feel a little bit happier that I got out of that. So I wanted that to represent maybe negative imagery in terms of the lyrics and what I was feeling, and then positive in terms of sonics, how it sounds. So that's why that song is that way, as opposed to, this is part of a ghost story, so let's put harpsichord and theremin and all these things in there to try to make it sound creepy. It was important that the songs represented more the emotional values as opposed to the overarching like comic book thing.
Yeah, so there's not like one kind of genre thread that runs through the music. There's a bit of everything on there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I like to think so. I think that the one thing I've never done is I've never gone into the studio with the intention of like genre bending, because I feel like at that point, if you're already entering a process of creating anything and you're going, I'm going to take from this, this, and this, and you're doing it consciously, I feel like you run the risk of being disingenuous pretty easily. If you're unconsciously going, this is this whole world of music that I have and things that are at my disposal and things I listen to, what influences me. I want to do exactly what I like. Then it feels like it's an easier path to do something that's more directly just from your heart. So if I wanted to have a noise that is maybe traditionally used in a hip hop setting as opposed to a hard rock setting, then it wouldn't be because I heard this artist doing it, but rather that's just the sound that I wanted there. So the genre bending and all that stuff, I think it just, at this point, it's just the way music is.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like the whole specificity of genre is kind of antiquated. So I wanted to be able to do everything that I wanted to do without specifically saying, this is a rap rock song or this is a dance pop song, you know?
Yeah. And do you think your fans have come to expect that? I mean, what do you think your fans expect of you?
I don't know, and I don't pretend to know. I think that one of the worst things that you can do as an artist is to try to qualify the interests of the people who have propped you up in this position. It's a little bit predatory, I think, to go, I know what you like, and I'm going to give it to you. Like, it feels like I don't necessarily know why someone likes what I do. I do my best to try to put something out there, and then if they enjoy it, they enjoy it. I also can expect a reasonable amount of backlash, that there are going to be people who don't like something that's so hugely different, but then half the time I'm wrong about that. I thought that when the song Ghost of Ohio came out, there would be a significant number of people who wouldn't get it at first, and people would be like kind of bristle at the idea of this very kind of traditionally pop-oriented song. And people loved it, you know? So it's like, I really shouldn't pretend to know what other people are thinking or why they like something.
And for those kind of Black Veil Bride purists, I mean, can you tell us anything about future plans for the band?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I've been pretty open with the fact that we do have strong plans to do something cool for the 10-year anniversary of We Stitch These Wounds. You know, I think at this point the plan is to kind of do a reimagining of the record. We've gotten started on it to a certain point, and we're self-producing. Jake's going to produce the record, and it's been fun to re-examine those songs 10 years later. But I don't know what's going to happen next with the band. I think that's really exciting. For the longest time, there was a trajectory where it was, I had set up this story with Wretched and Divine, and then we kind of did the more hard rock oriented record with Bob Rock, and then we kind of re-entered the Wretched and Divine story, and it was always like there was predetermined elements to what the band was going to be. And this is the first time really probably in years that I feel like I don't know what's going to come next. I have ideas, you know, I always think about what's going to happen, but nothing's decided on, and I think it's going to be a really exciting period for the band, because you know, we were on the same label for years and years, and that's now changed, and it's a new situation.
Anything could happen.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds kind of like, I guess it sounds kind of hokey to say, but realistically, yeah, I mean, musically, I don't know what the next chapter is, and I don't know how the other guys are feeling about different things, and we've got an opportunity now to kind of do what we're doing, and each of us are focusing on different projects, and we'll regroup and see where it goes.
Sweet. And having seen Gerard Way do it, would you take the Netflix money and make a big TV production of The Ghost of Ohio?
Oh, absolutely, but I don't think anybody's offering it to me right now. So, you know, I think one of the things about finding like something like that is that that's a level of success that I would be a dream to be able to achieve, but I just want people to read the book first, you know?
Sweet. And what can we expect from the live shows?
Well, it's kind of funny because the last time I toured as Andy Black, I had one record, and that's it. So it's very difficult to do a headline live show when you have just that amount of material, and to be able to connect with people. Now we've had the benefit of a couple years of that record being out, plus this whole new album, plus a bunch of covers that I've done. So the set list will be much more extensive. And then visually, the idea is to try to capture elements of what we've done in these videos, whether it's the home movie footage and all that kind of stuff, and show a little bit more of a, I don't want to say like one-man show, but an intimate experience where there's a lot from my childhood and projection. We're doing a lot with front projection and stuff. Try to bring people in a little bit more than just rock lights and me like telling a joke between songs.
Sweet. Andy, we'll see you on the road. Thank you so much for your time, man.
See you there.
Cheers.